Once upon a time, there lived a young nurse named Joliya. She was only 24, but her mind was sharper than most doctors twice her age. She didn't like loud music. She didn't wear makeup. She didn't party or gossip. Joliya liked silence. She said silence helped her hear what most people ignored. She grew up in a wary, the only daughter of a strict father and a quiet mother. She spent most of her childhood helping her mother care for her grandmother, who had gone mute after a stroke. Joliya learned early how to listen, not with ears, but with her heart. At the hospital, patients said she had healing hands. Even when people screamed in pain, they calmed down when Joliya touched them. She didn't talk much, but when she did, her voice was soft, steady, and calm, like warm rain on a cold day. One Wednesday morning, while she was arranging medicine trays in the hospital storage room, her supervisor walked in with a serious face. "Joliya," he said, "there's a private job request. Very urgent, high-paying, a billionaire in Lagos. They asked for you by name." Joliya blinked. "Me? Yes," they said. "Only you? Full-time private residence. You'll live in the mansion. Salary is 10 times what you earn here." But he hesitated. "It's strange." "Strange how?" she asked. He looked away. "They didn't give details. Just a note that says don't talk after midnight." Joliya frowned. "That's it." He nodded. "That's it." The next morning, a sleek black car picked her up. The driver didn't speak. She sat in the back seat, staring at the window as the city faded and the trees grew taller. They drove for almost 4 hours. The sky grew darker as they climbed a narrow hill. Then she saw it, the mansion. It looked like a castle from a dream, but not the good kind. Gray stone walls, black iron gates, and tall towers that reached into the sky. The windows were long and narrow, and most were covered with dark curtains. The gate opened without a sound. No birds, no wind, no voices, only silence. Joliya stepped out of the car the moment her shoes touched the ground. A cold breeze brushed her face. It didn't feel natural. A tall woman in a black dress appeared at the front door. She didn't smile. "You must be Nurse Joliya." Joliya nodded. "Yes, follow me. And remember, don't talk after midnight." The inside of the mansion was just as cold. The floors were polished black marble. The walls were covered with paintings of seriously looking people, none of them smiling. The ceilings were high and the air smelled like old wood and something faintly sweet like forgotten flowers. They walked down a long hallway. Portraits stared at her as she passed. She counted 27. Finally, they reached a door. The woman stopped. "He's in here. You'll sleep in the room next to his. Ring the bell if you need anything. Staff leaves at night." Joliya asked, "Why?" The woman stared. "Because this house changes at night." Joliya didn't reply. She pushed the door open. Inside the room, an old man lay on a massive bed covered in thick blankets. His skin was pale. His hair was snow white. His eyes were half open, staring at the ceiling. Machines beeped softly beside him. This was Mr. Theodore Grayson, 88 years old, billionaire, property tycoon, philanthropist, and now silent. She stepped closer. "Good evening, sir. My name is Joliya. I'll be your nurse." No reply. He didn't blink. He didn't smile. But as she moved closer, she noticed something strange. His eyes shifted. They followed her, but only when she wasn't looking directly at them. Joliya unpacked her things quietly. She set up her tray, checked the drip, adjusted his pillow, and made notes. Everything felt normal almost, but the room was too quiet. There was no ticking clock, no outside noise, no birds. As the sun disappeared, the mansion grew darker, even with lights on. Closed windows. Her notebook slammed shut. Mr. Grayson's body jolted violently. The machine screamed and the lights. Every single bulb flickered in fast, angry flashes, then blew out completely. The room went black. Total black. Joliya jumped to her feet. "Mr. Grayson," she said again louder. But that was the second mistake. The first word had cracked the door. The second kicked it open behind the walls. She heard it scratching, faint at first, like fingernails on wood. Then louder, claws dragging, moving fast, not rats, not anything natural. Then came the breathing from behind her. Slow, heavy, wet. Her chest tightened. She couldn't see, but she felt it. Something was in the room with her. Not Mr. Grayson. Something else watching, waiting. She turned slowly, but the darkness wouldn't move. It swallowed everything, even her hands in front of her face. Then a voice, low, childlike. "Why did you speak?" Joliya froze. The voice wasn't Mr. Grayson's. It was behind her, but there was nothing there. She backed toward the bed. Her knees hit something solid. Then a hand, cold and bony, gripping her wrist. Mr. Grayson. He was sitting up in bed, breathing hard, his eyes locked on hers. He pulled her close, tighter than an old man should be able to. "Don't talk," he whispered, his voice dry, barely human, like it hadn't been used in years. Then louder, "Don't say a word." Joliya couldn't move. His grip didn't loosen. Then the wall behind the bed cracked. She heard it split like old paint breaking under pressure. A deep groan followed. Not wood, not pipes, like the house itself was waking up. Mr. Grayson's mouth opened wider. His lips trembled. He wasn't just warning her. He was afraid of what might come next. Joliya's voice shook. "What's happening?" His eyes widened. He shook his head, then pointed to the ceiling. She looked up. A black stain was spreading above the bed, thick and alive, pulsing like a heartbeat. Then she saw fingers, thin, gray, clawing their way out of the wall. She screamed the moment the sound escaped her lips. The stain exploded. A rush of wind, a howl. Her notebook flew into the air, pages tearing. The machine sparked. Sparks lit up the room just enough for her to see the mirror. The cloth had fallen off and something was inside it. Not a reflection, a shape twisting, smiling, but it didn't have eyes. It had mouths, too many, all sewn shut. Joliya fell to her knees. "Stop!" she cried. The shape inside the mirror tilted its head. One of its mouths began to stretch. The thread holding it shut snapped slowly. Pop, pop! Mr. Grayson let out a sharp gasp and pulled her under the bed. "Close your mouth," he whispered again. "Don't speak. Don't answer it." They lay flat, face to face. Darkness all around them. The mirror shimmered above. The sound of breathing filled the room. Closer now then. Nothing. No wind. No light. No noise. Just stillness. And the sharp taste of metal in the air. They stayed under the bed for what felt like hours. Then finally, slowly, the light returned. A faint glow. The machines turned back on. The mirror was covered again without anyone touching it. Mr. Grayson's hand fell limp. He slumped back onto the floor. Joliya crawled out and helped him up. He was shaking, but he looked at her. His lips moved. This time he said something clearer. 3 more nights. She held his shoulders. 3 more nights until what? He looked at the window. The moon still thin, still far from full, but growing. He pointed to her notebook on the floor. She picked it up. The front page had changed. The original line was still there. Don't talk after midnight. But now beneath it, a new message had been added. The handwriting was not hers. It read, "You have broken the silence. Now they know your voice." Joliya stared at the message. Her hands trembled. She sat back on the bed, notebook on her lap. Mr. Grayson was breathing shallowly again, back to silence like nothing had happened. But she knew the truth now. The rule was not a warning. It was a trapdoor. Every word after midnight pulled the monsters closer. They heard her know. They knew her sound. And they weren't finished. Not yet. That night she didn't sleep. She sat on the cold floor beside Mr. Grayson's bed, notebook in her lap, pen in hand, listening, scratching, breathing, soft voices behind walls. She didn't speak, not even once, because now she understood. Silence wasn't fear. It was armor, and she had just taken it off. She thought it meant not crying, not shaking, not letting fear show. But that morning, as the sun rose over the cold mansion, her fingers trembled while pouring a glass of water. She wasn't brave. Not right now, not after what she saw, not after what she heard, and definitely not after Mr. Grayson spoke. She hadn't told anyone what happened. The staff walked around like nothing was wrong. Breakfast was served. Chairs were neatly arranged. Plates were full of fruit and toast. Grace, the housekeeper, placed a spoon beside her bowl without saying a word. Only Joliya's eyes scanned every shadow, every corner, every mirror. Mr. Grayson hadn't moved since the night. He was back to his silent self, like a doll someone forgot to wind up. But she knew. She knew he was pretending. Protecting himself, protecting her for now. After breakfast, Joliya went to the West Wing again. The door was slightly open, even though she was sure it had been locked before. She stepped in slowly. The air smelled musty, like damp paper and old smoke. The curtains were thick with dust. She took a deep breath. Something was calling her there. Not a voice, but a pull. Her feet moved on their own. At the far end of the hall, behind the faded nursery, she found a door she hadn't noticed before. It was narrow, wooden, painted dark green with a small metal knob. She reached for it, turned it with a soft click. The room behind it was small and quiet. The study. A large desk stood by the window. Stacks of books lined the shelves. The curtains were drawn, so the light came in thin lines, cutting across the floor. She stepped closer to the desk. Dust covered everything except one thing. A leather-bound book, newer than the others, clean, untouched by time. She picked it up, opened it. Her heart dropped. It wasn't a book. It was a journal, and the name on the first page was Evelyn Grayson. Joliya sat down. The journal creaked open. The first page read, "I begged him not to make the deal, but Theodore wouldn't listen. He said money could fix everything. He was wrong. Joliya's fingers tightened on the cover. She turned the page. The rule was clear. No one speaks after midnight. That's when the air becomes thin and the walls stretch. They listen and they remember. And if they hear your voice, they come. She flipped again. The mirror in our bedroom is the first gate. It must stay covered always. Even during the day, especially during the day. Joliya felt a chill crawl down her spine. Gate. Gate to what? She turned another page and read the last full entry. They took our daughter first because I called her name after midnight. Her voice stayed behind. It still rocks in that chair. She closed the journal. Her breath shaky, her eyes full of tears. So the story was true. The rocking chair in the nursery, the sock under the bed, the voice that whispered her name. All of it real. She took the journal back to her room and hid it under the mattress. Then she sat by Mr. Grayson again. He was awake, not moving, but his eyes were open. She didn't speak. Instead, she held the journal in her lap and turned a few pages in front of him. His eyes followed the text. One tear fell from his right eye. She whispered just barely, "Is this all because of her?" His mouth moved but made no sound. She leaned in. "Did you break the rule first?" His head barely nodded. Once a heavy silence filled the space between them. She touched his hand. "Then we have to stop it before they take someone else." That night, Joliya slept for the first time in 2 days. She locked her door, stuffed a towel under the crack, and covered the mirror with her own bed sheet. Even though it already had a cloth, she left the lamp on, notebook on her lap, eyes half closed. The house was quiet. Still, she was drifting off when a thump jolted her awake. She sat up, listened. Thump closer now outside her door. She tiptoed to the door, didn't open it, just placed her ear against it. She heard breathing. Then a whisper, "Open." She stepped back. Her hands shook. She didn't answer. She didn't speak. She stayed quiet. Then slowly the doorknob turned. She held her breath. No sound, no words, just fear. Pure, sharp fear. The knob stopped, then turned the other way. Click. Footsteps walked away. She didn't sleep again. The next day, she confronted Grace in the hallway where no one else could hear. "I know what happened to the child," Joliya said softly. Grace dropped the silver tray in her hand. Her face went pale. "You weren't supposed to find out," she said. "I read Evelyn's journal." Grace shook her head, tears welling. They punished her for breaking the rule. Her own daughter vanished right out of the crib. Joliya asked, "Why does no one leave this place?" "Because the house remembers voices. Even if you escape, they still come for you. In your dreams, in your mirror, in your walls." "Then why are we still here?" Grace's lips trembled. "Because someone has to watch him. If Mr. Grayson dies before the full moon, they win." "Who's they?" Grace wiped her eyes. "You'll see them tonight." And she did. That night was colder than all the others. The wind howled outside. The house groaned louder. Joliya sat in Mr. Grayson's room, lamp on low, watching him sleep. She was tired. Her eyes kept closing, but she refused to sleep. Then, just as the night reached its darkest, the lights went out. Not just in the room, the entire mansion. Blackness, cold. Then bang. Something slammed into the door. She jumped to her feet. The machines shut off. The beeping stopped. The priest explained temples. He had lost his daughter in a car accident. Evelyn was never the same. She begged him to find peace. But he went looking for power. He wanted to speak to the dead. Not just speak, to bring them back. Joliya whispered, "Did it work?" The priest nodded, but not the way he hoped. He opened the wrong door, called the wrong thing, and it didn't come alone. Joliya gripped the chair. "So, the house is cursed?" "No, it's worse." The priest said, "The house became a gate. A gate to where?" He didn't answer further, because he didn't need to. Father Yuzo stood and walked to a drawer. He pulled out a folded cloth. Inside it, a small wooden cross and a page torn from an old book. He placed it in front of her. It was written in ink, faded and strange. One line was underlined. "Do not call them by name. Do not echo their voice. The more they are heard, the more they remember who they were. They were human? She asked, shocked. Some were long ago before the deal. Now they are only voices hungry for sound. That's why they hate silence. That's why the rule exists. Don't talk after midnight, she said softly. They wait for the air to shift, he said. That's when their world touches ours. And when someone speaks, it opens the passage a little more. Especially in houses like his, houses used as anchors. Joliya stood. What happens if I keep breaking the rule? He looked at her with deep sadness. You won't just hear them. You'll invite them. She left the chapel with shaking hands, but her mind was clear. She knew what she had to do. She had to stay because if she left, someone else would take her place. And if Mr. Grayson died without saying the right words, the gate would never close. She returned to the mansion before sunset. Grace met her at the door. You shouldn't have gone alone, she said. I had to, Joliya replied. I needed answers. Did you get them? Joliya nodded. Yes. Grace looked down. Then I hope you're ready. The full moon is in 2 nights. That evening, the house felt different. Like it knew she was no longer afraid to ask questions. The walls groaned louder. The wind pressed harder against the windows. But Joliya didn't run. She moved through the hallways with purpose. She went back to the nursery. The rocking chair didn't move this time. But something else caught her eye. A small box beneath the crib. She pulled it out. Inside were torn pages from Evelyn's journal. One read, "The mirror in the attic was the first to speak. The voice said it was our daughter. But when I spoke back, the voice laughed. It wasn't her. It never was." Joliya folded the page and held it to her chest. Then she went to the attic. The attic door hadn't been opened in years. It creaked long and slow like a breath drawn too deep. Dust floated in the beam of her flashlight. Old furniture covered in sheets. Boxes stacked high. She found the mirror in the far corner. Tall, cracked, half covered by a dusty curtain. She didn't move it. She knelt in front of it and whispered, "I know you're not her." No reply, but the curtain fluttered. Even though there was no wind. That night, Mr. Grayson woke up screaming. Joliya ran to his side. His eyes were wide, his mouth open, but no sound came out, just fear. He gripped her hand with a strength she didn't think he had. "Don't let them in," he gasped. "Then help me stop them," she begged. "Tell me what you said to start this." But he only shook his head. Tears fell down his cheeks. "I tried to bring her back," he whispered. "But I never got her voice right. I never said the words fully." "Then say them now," she begged. He closed his mouth. He wasn't ready. Not yet. Later that night, she went to her room and sat in front of the mirror. She took the sheet off and looked at herself. Her eyes were tired. Her lips cracked. Mr. Grayson blinked rapidly. His hand twitched. Joliya paused the tape. He stared at the recorder, eyes wide. "She loved this place, didn't she?" she asked. Mr. Grayson blinked once. "You wanted to keep her safe, but the voices lied to you." She looked away. "I know they offered you something," Joliya said. "They promised to bring her back, but you didn't know what they'd take in return." Still no words. She took a deep breath, then played the second clip. It was her own recording from the night of the attack. The sound of her whisper, then the cold wind, then Mr. Grayson's voice, weak, trembling. "Don't talk." He shut his eyes tightly. "Open your mouth," Joliya whispered. "You've already spoken once. That means you still can." He shook his head. She moved closer. "You told me you never said the words fully. You said you tried to bring her back, but got it wrong. What did you say, Mr. Grayson?" His lips quivered. She placed her hand on his. "You don't have to shout. Just whisper. Just one word at a time." He squeezed her fingers weakly, then mouthed something. She leaned closer. "What?" His lips moved again, a little wider this time. She watched carefully. 3 silent words. "They will hear." That afternoon, Joliya searched the house for more recordings. She went to the old study. The drawers were mostly empty, but inside one, she found a dusty cassette labeled "Final Attempt." She brought it back to her room and played it through a converter. Evelyn's voice spoke first. I'm scared, Theo. I feel her voice in the mirror again. But it's not her. It sounds like her. But it's wrong. Then Mr. Grayson's voice, strong and confident. If this works, she'll come back whole. Then the whispering started. Endless voices repeating, speak to us. Say the name. Say it again louder. Say the name. The tape stopped. The power in her room flickered. The bulb hissed. Then it burst. She jumped back. The room filled with smoke. She didn't scream. She just whispered, I'm not afraid of. But her shadow on the wall whispered back, yes, you are. That night, she didn't stay in her room. She brought a pillow and blanket to Mr. Grayson's side. She laid her head on the foot of his bed and watched the shadows move on the ceiling. They were bolder now. One of them walked. Another reached toward the mirror and tapped the cloth softly. Tap, tap, tap. She looked at the old man. He was wide awake, tears in his eyes. They're ready, he mouthed. For what? He slowly pointed to the window. The moon almost full. She sat up. Then we don't wait. He looked at her, confused. She leaned close. You said you never got the words right. So say them now, the right ones. Wait. He shook his head slowly. I'll help you, she said. I'll sit here until you speak. I don't care if it takes all night. The walls creaked loudly. The air grew cold. Start with her name. Joliya begged. Just her name. His lips parted barely. The lights blinked. He shut his mouth again. Joliya grabbed the recorder and played the little girl's voice again. This time something changed. Mr. Grayson turned toward the sound. He whispered, barely audible. Her name. Joliya leaned in. Yes, her name. Say it. He opened his mouth wider. Then from the corner of the room, the lamp fell over. Glass shattered. Something hissed. Joliya spun around. The cloth had slid halfway off the mirror. Inside it, not a face, a doorway, long, endless, black. Then a voice came from inside it. Not a scream, not a whisper. Perfect copy of Joliya's voice. Please help me. Mr. Grayson's chest froze. His face twisted in pain. They're copying you now, he gasped. Joliya backed up. They're trying to trick you, she said. Don't listen. But the voice came again. Please, Joliya, help me. He shut his eyes. They did this before, he whispered. They used Evelyn's voice. They made me believe. And now they're using mine, Joliya said. Because I'm trying to stop them. Mr. Grayson stared at her. A long, deep stare, then whispered. It's not too late. Joliya reached out, then talked to me. Say her name. He opened his mouth. Then bang, the window burst open. The wind rushed in cold and sharp like blades. The mirror screamed. Not the glass. The thing inside it. Joliya covered her ears. Mr. Grayson grabbed her hand. And for the first time he spoke out loud. One word. Run. The room exploded in darkness. The lights died. The machines sparked. Smoke poured from the corner. She couldn't see him, couldn't see anything. She dropped to the floor and crawled, calling his name. The floorboards twisted under her. The walls bent, the shadows reached. She felt them brush her skin. Cold, dry, curious. Joliya, they whispered. Not from one place, from everywhere. Say it again. Say your name. She pressed her hands to her ears, crawled toward the bed. Mr. Grayson. She found his leg, held on to it. Then she heard his voice again. Weaker, almost gone. Don't speak. She didn't. Not a word. Just held on. I shut, heart racing. The shadows hissed one final time. Then silence. When she opened her eyes, it was morning. The mirror was covered again. The machines were working. The light was dim but real. Mr. Grayson was lying back, pale and sweating, but alive. She crawled up beside him and held his hand. You said her name, she whispered. He blinked once. You remembered the truth. He nodded slowly. Joliya stared at the ceiling. The house was quiet. Too quiet. They knew now. She was never going to run. Joliya thought she would just be a nurse, nothing more. She thought she would help people breathe easier, maybe fix a broken bone, maybe ease someone's pain. She never thought she would be standing in a haunted mansion, holding the hand of a dying billionaire after fighting shadows that didn't belong in this world. But here she was, and it was almost over. The room was still shaking. The mirror was shattered. The floor was cracked in places.